Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring over 40 years experience in the world of comic books and entertainment. Across 5 decades, I offer insights and opinions on the business and the art of comic books and pop culture. If it's happening in games, in streaming, in movies, in comic books, we are covering it and discussing it right here. Welcome, everybody, to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. You are in for a treat today. What a fantastic interview with an epic, amazing, tremendously accomplished creator. Whilce Portacio is one of the finest illustrators, storytellers, character designers in the history of all comic books. When we were all breaking in together, Whilce had already kind of jumped to the fore. He was already kind of established as Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee and I were kind of making it into the business. But if you pulled Mark Silvestri or Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane, any of us, we would all tell you Whilce is the artist. They'd say, yeah, it's Whilce. It's Whilce. He pencils, he inks, he colors, he paints. There is nothing in his range that he cannot do and has not accomplished, from his breakout work on The Punisher to then X Factor and of course X-Men. And we are both part of that big mutant revolution that's going on in the late 80s, early 90s. And it really occurred to me as I'm listening to Whilce, we have our X-Office experience, our Image Comics experience, then our Heroes Reborn experience. It's amazing. I'm super proud to have been linked with Whilce through so many giant moments over the course of comic book history. And we had a great chat. You're going to hear about the origin of Bishop. You're going to hear about how he built the studio, his studio with Jim Lee and Scott Williams, the original Homage Studios, which started with those guys. You are going to hear about the Jam issue that they were given a little over about 10, 11, 15 days to do. And you'll find out exactly how fast they did it. It's amazing. Whilce has got so many great stories that I'm going to let him share with you. We had a crazy 2-hour conversation. I thought I only had him for an hour. Whilce is a tremendous storyteller. You're going to hear a lot of great tidbits. I learned so much from this, and I learned the origin of the fade. I needed to know this. It's a technique that we all cribbed from Whilce. So many great things that he's about to share with you. Here we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my sit-down interview with Whilce Portacio. Okay, everybody, here we are. It is my great pleasure to be joined today by a premier craftsman and one of the best illustrators to ever make comic books for you, Mr. Whilce Portacio. Whilce, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us.
You know, anytime I'm with you, fantastic, man.
I love it.
Fantastic.
I love it. I am so excited because you have been a topic for many years on the show, because I share with people how influential and impactful your work was to the pack of us, all of us in the 90s. But you're such a nice and polite and you're nowhere near the loudmouth that guys like myself or Todd are, that you don't that I don't think people are as familiar. So today we are going to put the spotlight right on you, Mr. Whilce. I am so excited. And here's the deal. We got to go all the way back, because Whilce, when I first saw your name, it was as an anchor over an artist who I had been watching on the convention circuit, because he would keep bringing pages of this book that he was drawing called Long Shot. And then I kept asking him, who's going to ink it? Who's going to ink it? And then one day he said, well, this guy named Whilce Portacio is going to be inking me. And boom, in 1985, Long Shot's published, and you're the anchor of the entirety of Long Shot. So tell me how that came about.
Well, I was discovered by, Carl Potts, a senior editor, and he actually, as we were developing a relationship, asked me if I needed to make some money. So, so I go, yeah, sure. He goes, can you ink? Yeah. You know how we were, right?
Yeah.
We had no fear or anything. And even if we didn't know how to do it, we just said yes. And we just went in and did it. And so here I was. I went to San Diego Con, my very first one. My big cousin dragged me over. I didn't even know what it was. I brought my portfolio, and it was everything you're not supposed to have: watercolor paintings, splash shots, and But Carl Potts saw it, and I was really lucky because they sent all the editors. It was one of the years that they actually were doing a talent search, and I just was lucky enough to be there. So Carl signed me up there, and there was a big pause because I was so young and dumb. I didn't know you had to tell a story with your pictures. I thought you could just draw pretty pictures. And so he then asked me, well, he sent me the 5 C's of cinematography, a great big book to learn how to tell a story visually. And as I was learning it, he asked me if I wanted to make some money. And of course, he was close friends with Ann Neseni, who was the X-Men editor at the time, who was writing what you were talking about, Long Shot. And he goes, hey, okay, yeah, sure. Before that, he had seen me ink a little bit on Frank Scirocco's book, Alien Legion.
Mm.
And so it's funny that you say what you said, that everybody knew about this book and everybody was asking who's going to ink it. And the thing you left out there was everybody was asking that because there was so much detail. Who's going to be lame enough to take on this job? It's going to take hours. Well, a young and dumb guy who doesn't know anything about this stuff. I was just going to make some money to pay some bills. And so I go to the next San Diego Con, and there I meet Art Adams, and we're sitting at the Marvel tables, and I'm going, wow, everybody's coming up. All the top pros at the time, Terry Austin, everybody, and they know what long shot is.
Mm.
And so, like you said, Art goes, hey, this is Whilce Portacio. He's going to ink long shot. And every single editor, every single inker, they came up to me and they said, my apologies, Whilce.
Yes.
But then here's the kicker to that, because you know about this. There's two things. You know about this, that you can have a great penciler and a great inker, but they just don't mesh.
Mm.
Okay. So Art and I meshed right away.
Mm.
I understood what he was trying to do as an ink, as an artist. So it was easy for me to ink. So believe it or not, I was doing, each page 4 hours a page. So I zip through this. Long shot gets printed, and now I can't get near Art. Everybody wants to ink him.
That's great.
But fortunately, at that time, I'd figured out this storytelling thing, and then Carl puts me on the Punisher.
So, Wills, the samples that you gave to Carl, were those just pencils? You said there's watercolors. You were showing your full illustrator, range as an illustrator, but were there inks in there? Did he automatically know, well, you're capable as an inker?
I had some inks in there, but they were more along the lines. I could send you this. I got this big splash of because I love reading science fiction fantasy. So I loved Lord of the Rings. So I got this big splash of the Elrond's meeting at his table and everybody there, Boromir and everything. But it was more like those fantasy illustrators where there's a lot of texture, a lot of little tiny lines that, as you know, don't print unless you know how to make them print and stuff. So there were sampling, inking samples, but they weren't anything that could go to print with. So I had to learn what
Okay.
Art was doing. In fact, I'll jump a little bit. When I learned that Rick Lenardi was doing an X-Men issue, I begged Anne, let me ink that. Because again, I could see his pencil, I could understand it. And so I inked it, and I still yet had not learned how to adjust for print. And so if you look at that, it's very fine line. And I never got another job inking anybody like Rick because they knew I would get too finicky, too fine line. But that is where I am. So my portfolio was just full of stuff that, well, let me step back. I was fortunate in the 6th grade in Hawaii that I had an art teacher. And that art teacher, I did not know took me under her wing. And then when I went to middle school, I didn't know she talked to the art teacher in middle school. And so that art teacher then took me under her wing. And then I didn't know that that art teacher then talked to my high school art teacher, Thomas T. Inhofe, which was Scott Williams. That's where I met Scott in that class. He knew who I was. So essentially, I'd been training since sixth grade.
I love
They
it.
were putting me on a path. So I was doing illustrative stuff, free fall drawing, charcoal and stuff. So I was being pushed up until high school to go into fine arts. In fact, I was lucky enough that all of them sent samples to national award shows for me. And so I got recognition nationwide. And so by my second year in high school, I started getting letters of invitation to art colleges around the country. I had no idea there's art colleges, but I was getting invitation. I just started to know, oh, this is going to be the path. Okay, I'll let them take me to this. Then I meet Scott. And he shows me Barry Windsor Smith, shows me Kaluta. He shows me what illustration can do. Instead of just being fine artsy, he shows me this fantasy world that you could just create, you know? And I start sliding along that side with him. And that art teacher, Thomas T. Inhofe, he did great things. Like he packed his room with art supplies. And I remember he told us that he heard me and Scott talking about Corbin because we've been looking at heavy metal and we're going, oh, wow, I wish we could have an airbrush. I wonder, we could do real cool stuff. We walk into class the next day and he's there like with this airbrush. And we're
Wow.
going, dude, wow. And then he sees us, turns around, gives it to us, and walks away.
Oh, it's so great.
I mean, you get that? He
Oh,
lets us
you were touched by
explore.
a great influence. That is so great, Wills. I
Yeah,
have
so
two
that's what
questions for
that's
you.
what my portfolio was.
I have
It
two
was just a
questions.
lot of this.
What year? Okay, so when you say sixth grade, how old are you when you and Scott Williams? Because I was going to get to this. I'm so glad you jumped in because you guys grew up pals on the islands, right? Over in Hawaii. Sixth grade, what is it? 12, 13, 14?
It's somewhere around there. Only thing I could really remember and pinpoint is I left the islands in '79 to go to the Philippines.
Okay.
So that was my sophomore year.
Okay.
And so I met Scott the year before that, and he was, if I remember right, 2 years up above me.
Okay.
But so I was in the senior art class, and that was just because I'd had all this prior training, and like I said, all
Okay.
these other teachers, they wouldn't allow me in the freshman class. They bumped me up to the senior class, and there I met Scott.
So now I have another question, but I got the other. I'm going to do that in a second. What year were you showing your portfolio? You said San Diego, but I didn't get a year. Is that 84? Is that 83?
It's I went to the Philippines in '79, stayed there for about 4 years, so about 85, 80,
Okay.
84. And then it
Because
took me about a year
Long
to
Shot
learn.
is published. I think Long Shot starts being published around March of 85.
Oh, okay.
I'm just and like I said, I had been tracking art because I was like, wow, I immediately understood all the influences that he was putting into this body of work that to me looked like the best style I'd ever seen. He had synthesized all these different and just so people know, because I can back you up, 1000% being the kid that stood at those on the other side of those tables in 84, in 85, uh, as Longshot, I think issue 4 or 5 is coming out that summer, and they're divvying up pages for the X-Men annual, the follow-up to the New Mutants, and they're giving out pages to Joseph Rubinstein grabbed a couple, Art Nichols grabbed a couple, Al Gordon, who was there, added more to his plate, and they were like looking for anybody. It was so exciting because I came back the next day to watch them hand those pages in to Ann Nesenti, who was there in real time. So to this day, I'm like, man, you can get a whole comic or a lot of a comic inked at a convention. But everybody, one guy, I won't say who it is, but one guy grumbled and said, I lose money inking these pages. I lose money. There's too much to ink here. And he would give Art a hard time. He goes, buddy, anybody who inks you is losing. And Art would just like chuckle because, he doesn't give a shit. He's like, I put it on the page. But when you were like, people were saying to you, you know, they knew that you were young and gung ho and you do it because the veterans, the older veterans, that work scared them because of the commitment of time, you
Yeah.
know? So I just, okay, so it was probably before 85, but when you leave for the Philippines, when do you and Scott stay in contact or do you connect later on again?
Well, we kind of stay in contact there because we didn't have the internet. We just had
Of
snail
course.
mail, but we kept in contact enough because when I came back to San Diego and then met the editors and met Carl Potts, I started going to San Diego all the time.
Hmm.
And lo and behold, there was this contingent of Hawaii guys, the Art Society, and Scott was part of it. So
Oh,
then we were able to reconnect, and then especially back then, and you couldn't understand this. I really wanted to be a penciler.
of course.
And so I was okay, cool. I'm making some money here. I could pay some bills. I could prove to my parents this might work out. And it's great stuff because it's Art Adams. Everybody loves Longshot and
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
But as you know, as a penciler, and especially as a wannabe, you want to get in there. So every time you're inking, you're going, oh, I could be penciling, this stuff right now. So I I just really wanted to
So
pencil.
we're gonna
And so
transition you out of it because you're not an inking long. What the truth of the
right,
matter is, you don't ink very long.
yeah. So that's why then I go, oh wow, hey Scott, you know, you haven't been able to get in yet, but you want to come in and help me ink. In other words, in my mind,
Okay,
ink some stuff that
sure.
I don't have to ink, you know,
Are,
and
are
so
any of his inks in long shot or that? Let's do everybody a favor and give that Rick Leonardi issue is a weird connective tissue for you and I. It's the debut of Nate Summers, who goes on to be revealed as Cable, which is
your
and
idea,
but the bottom line is Rick Leonardi pencils that issue, you ink it. I can tell you as a fan going, oh damn, because when you get somebody who you like you said, and let's be honest, you had to clear. Arthur was pretty proprietary about his work. He wasn't just going to have it off to a brush inker. You fit. Obviously, you cleared him because, like you said, you meshed really well. You had that slick, crisp line that fanboys like myself and that we've always loved. So then I'm going, whoa! Whilce Portacio is breaking out. He's inking Rick Leonardi. And is that issue 201? Is that the issue?
yeah.
Okay, so everybody, Whilce is. I mean, he is. You are making your mark really early on, but again, suddenly I lose track of you because what I don't know behind the scenes as a fan is that you're now going to start penciling. And how tell us about that transition. How did that? When did those jobs start opening up?
Well, fortunate for me, it was still, and you will understand this. It was at a time where, maybe to say it nicely, editors had power.
Mm,
So you could form a relationship with an editor, and I know we all did it,
hmm.
throwing ideas at editors. And if an editor liked it and thought it was cool, it happened. It didn't go through
Yeah.
committee. It
Yes.
didn't go through, research or
Oh.
accounting numbers and shit. It was just editor thinks it cool. I think it's cool. He believes in my energy and I'll do it. And you get to do it the next day. And so while I was inking, they were happy with what I was doing, and I was keeping to the deadlines because I had the secret, weapon of Scott doing backgrounds.
Mm,
He did a lot of the background. I did all of the figures and all of the
okay.
faces and stuff, but he loved backgrounds to this day.
Okay.
To this day, if you have Scott inking you, you could just scribble a tree and he'll go
Oh,
to town.
yes.
He'll that's what a great inker is. But because once I understood, and I'm a film buff, so what reading the five C's, I go, oh yeah, so that's what Scorsese's doing. That's
Mm,
what Akira Kurosawa is doing. That's what David Lean's doing. I understand that. I know that. And Carl was great in that in my memory, every like 2 or 3 months, he'd say, Wolf, any new samples? So he
Mm.
pushed. You know, at the time, an editor will see you and you're 80% or 70%, and they'll go, this is great. Come back next year and show me more stuff.
Yeah.
Carl every month.
Oh, I
What's
love
up?
it.
What's up, Will? What's up? So he pushed me and made me go further and faster than I would have done just naturally on my own butt. And so once I showed him that I understood what a story is, because then he gave me, I don't know, you might not know this, he gave me the double vision story.
Okay.
You know what that is?
I'm going to let you tell
Oh,
me.
okay. So Double Vision was the official Marvel tryout story. I forget who actually wrote it, but basically, as it was pitched to me, this is the test to see if you could tell a story.
Mm.
It's a 22-page plot, but you got to do it in 8 pages.
Mm.
So
This is news to me.
oh yeah. So it was great because later on, you could ask all the other guys who got in and say, "Hey,
Mm.
can I see your your double vision story?" And since you're condensing 20 pages into 8 pages, it was cool. All the pros that went on to become top pros that did this, we all kind of did it the same way.
Oh, I
We
love
all
this.
kind of figured out the same things, the same tricks, same visual language.
Okay.
And so
Shortcuts.
you do this, and at the time they paid you. They paid you whether you passed the test or not.
Wow.
They paid you. So I mean, again, it was a different time back then. There was so many incentives to just give your all. You know?
I'm gonna let the people listening know when, because we've said his name a number of times now. Carl Potts was one of the few editors who was an exceptional artist and storyteller, and I believe in the mid '80s, maybe just prior or at the same time, he did a graphic novel. I think it's called The Last Dragon. Uh, Terry Austin may have inked parts of it, but this guy can draw. Like Carl is an exceptional artist in his own right. So when he's taking interest in somebody like you, uh, and he was a bit of an art snob, so you were, and he had his favorite pupils of which you were one of them. So like you said, he pushed you and he guided you, and I mean, ultimately, what you're saying is he unlocked you. He
Yeah.
unlocked you. What prior to the Punisher? What were the penciling assignments that you were getting?
Um, I got Scott and I actually got a short story. I think it was about 6 or 8 pages in Moratori
That's what I was going
because
to ask. I was going to ask if it was Strike Force because that's where I first saw Scott, and I actually thought you
yeah.
did a fill in, but you're saying it was a short story.
Yeah, because okay, Moratori is this involved world, but it's an involved world where one of the elements is a comic book about the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brent Anderson, who was an X-Men editor when I got in, now was doing more Strike Force Moratori, and so he asked me to come in with a totally different style than his,
Mm.
and said, "Hey, can you do these 8 pages, 6 pages that are part of the comic book?"
I love it.
And I'm a film fan, and he is too. And so the team in the comic book is Bruce Lee, Clint Eastwood, and Woody Strode. Three of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite, visual fighter warrior actors. And so that's what I did. So that was my big first tap into storytelling. And I
Okay.
think I fairly did it okay. But see, that was my little training ground to try to prove, to see if I understood what I was supposed to do. And then right after, a little bit after that, Carl then just drops me on Punisher. And the thing that people don't understand about Punisher is, yep, Mike Barron on the as the writer, he's a frustrated artist. Did you know this? He didn't write out plots to me. He drew little thumbnails with word balloons.
I
So I
tried to
would,
get him to give me a Badger job, and I because I saw that he would draw out the stories.
yeah.
So that's how he starts giving those to you.
Yeah, so here I am. I've just done a moratory and tested out my knowledge,
Hmm.
and I think I did fairly well. Carl was happy. And then I go to Punisher, and Mike's thumbnails give me a way to go, oh, well, see, maybe I could do this,
Mm.
instead of what Mike had. And if Carl liked it and Mike liked it, then I knew, oh, okay, I think I really understand this part of the storytelling, or if I messed up because I
Mhm.
tried to change something, then I knew, oh, okay, that's not very clear, so I'm not going to do that again. So the whole Punisher series, people don't understand is it was my finishing ground. It was where
Interesting.
I
Okay, I didn't
finished
know you had that
learning
view
how
of
to
it.
tell story.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Everybody, you should. I've got these digitally. I've got the Epic Collection. If you don't have this, if you get it digitally, if you get it, order it, get it. There's, I'm sure there's royalties to come of it. I love this stuff when they right here they've got it in black and white. I know my screen glare is kind of an issue, but your Punisher work is where Whilce, I'm like, this dude renders like a mofo. Like I'm like, you were doing tricks, uh, rendering stylings that I had never seen before, and I mean it. Now your figure work is incredible, but as I'm evidence, so this is your first issue. So you're telling me that Mike Barron is giving you some thumbnails for this stuff?
Yeah, yeah. And if you look through that, you could see my young gun personality there.
Mm.
I'm out to prove my shit, you know?
Oh, it's
And so
fantastic.
I'm getting these layouts and these stick figures, but there's no backgrounds. So I go hog wild on the backgrounds. I go hog wild on the shading and everything. So, because I know the editor's seen
Mm.
these thumbnails. So anything I can add to that,
Oh,
and this is after like seeing, Miller's Daredevil and stuff. I
I mean,
go, hey, let me pour all this stuff in there, and I go crazy.
look at, I mean, these, okay, I'm a face guy, and you put such great attention into faces, cheekbones, eyebrows, the shadows on the face. And again, like I said, you had these very specific, because I was taken immediately. I mean, like this is an incredible face right here. This is incredible. These faces, your profiles, you immediately hit. I think I'm just breaking in at this time, and as a penciler, you're looking at everybody around you, and you're like, wait, Whilce Portacio isn't just an inker. He's this crazy, talented, gifted. Here's what I'm talking about. Look at all these lines on this page, and I understand you have Scott, uh, who is able to interpret your lines, but again, you go on to ink yourself later on, and this is something you bring to every job: is this very unique uh, style of rendering, cross hatching, and oh, I mean, Wills, the lighting, this stuff. Again, I'm a huge face guy. Punisher was such a blast because let me tell you something. I'm not buying Punisher, and then I'm buying Punisher. Like this became a book I had to have now because the work that you were doing, and I recognized like that you and Scott were just a tremendous team. So I cannot recommend if you only know Wills from X Factor or X Men, or if that's your starting point, do yourself a favor, go back and look at these. You mentioned Frank Miller. I'm so glad because I was going to ask if you were influenced by Frank.
Yeah, I was influenced by all of the quote unquote dark guys. Even I mean all well, let me all the renderer guys. So the Kaluta stuff, the Wrights and stuff,
Look at
uh,
that face.
the
Look at
Millers.
that face. Okay, let me tell you something. This is what I'm talking about. All these not lines on the nose, the chin, the cheeks. Hey, if you don't think that me and Todd, we all stole your shit, we were stealing this shit because it's like this is crazy amounts of detail. The lines under the eyes, the extra kind of all of the just kind of motion. Your faces, they just came alive. And again, your figure work. I think your figure work becomes more and more pronounced, and we'll get to that because I think by the time we get to Wetworks, you're doing the premier kind of physiques in comics. That was like, what am I looking at? But what did you do? About 8 issues of Punisher?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Let me say though, just real quickly, that here's one of the I learned to be a secret later on, is that you're a film guy too, so you know that when we shifted to color,
Oh yeah.
everything got a little more subtle in terms
Hmm.
of shading and shadows and stuff, right? Um, I learned everything that I was doing in those books and to now from watching the old black and whites,
Mm.
because now
Mm.
it's condensed.
Okay.
So, like, looking at our faces right now, like especially mine, you could see a lot of shadow in there, but which is the real black shadow? Which is the real spot black? Which is just a shade of a color? But when you go to like watching like Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein or Citizen Kane, you can see what the shadows really are. And for an artist, learning the planes of the face and learning where shadows go, that was great because it was a condensed thing. And I have to think that that's where Miller and Klaus learned too, from watch and looking at all that stuff. So I encourage all young artists to look at black and white photography and
So
and
this face, this face right, I know I hear exactly what you're saying about the black and white photography. I think everyone who is listening to this, because we're going to get to when you taught over in the Philippines and all the people who've been influenced by you. Listen to everything this guy's saying. I'm just trying to give people a visual component that, so this is a guy, a security guard on a bus, okay? This is a security guard on a bus, in kind of a throwaway panel, but you look at the detail, and this is the kind of stuff that you're like, I mean, you and Scott were crushing it, and just breaking up that black space with that hatching. The thing that you would do with these harsh cheekbones, and nobody knew how to do the harsh lighting. I mean, and really give character. So I mean, suddenly, like I said, I am not the Punisher. Look at this. Look at this face. Look at all this character. And again, the lines on this guy's nose. The I'll just give everybody the full treatment here. This is quintessential Whilce Portacio. That kind of rendering on that nose, and we all took it. I took it. Todd took it. We were all. Everybody was like, check that out. I mean, just incredible the amount of detail, and I couldn't believe that you were producing this monthly for 8 months because there's a lot of work here. What kind of how many hours did this stuff take?
we were all putting in, and still to this day, a lot of times 12-hour days. Everybody, people don't understand that. At the end of the last week or the last week and a half, we're doing up to like 16 hours. But see, if you go back a little where I talk about that, I was actually, and I didn't know it, being trained
Mm-hmm.
to do this stuff to in middle school, I was taught planes of the face. That's something, that's a higher concept.
Mm-hmm.
But I was familiar with all that stuff. I was almost forced to draw all the time, to study all that time. That's what life drawing is. Look, what do you see? Do you really see that? And so my point there is, by the time I get into comics in my very early 20s, like all of us, um, not to sound self-centered, but drawing was easy.
Mm.
So like doing a security guard or
Okay,
anything and go, oh, wow, nobody's going to look at this. Nobody's going to remember that he
I
looked
see.
like this or didn't look like this. So I could just do whatever I want, which meant go to town,
Yeah, it's
just
why
go.
you stood out, Wills. I mean, look, everyone that I've ever known who had any sort of interaction with you, or we've always referred to you. You're in a master class of illustration. The again, from the figure work to the facial work, the lighting, the rendering, color. It's fitting that you would eventually go on and teach another generation who, I mean, you got a bunch of bangers that learn from you that we're going to get to. But I mean, I just love this cover was crushing it. Sometimes you would talk to people, and look, I've told everybody. So there was Terry Austin for his generation, right? And then there's Scott Williams for our generation, and neither of those guys can fit a lot of people on their plate. The one thing that we would all talk about, Eric Larson, who would eventually get Scott for a few issues on Punisher, but Todd, myself, can you believe? Can you believe the inks that what Whilce and Scott are doing together? I mean, you have a premier. He's going to become the inker finisher of his generation, the very best. I mean, what was that like, knowing that you could hand a page off, having every confidence? What I was going to ask you is, when this stuff printed, were you happy with it? Because most of us were like, "Oh, that sucked." Not your stuff, our stuff, our stuff.
Well, Scott and I were Dr. Spocks.
Mm,
We would spend because I don't know if people know, but before there was Wildstorm and before there was Image, there was Homage Studios, which was me, Scott, and Jim.
okay.
But before that, there was Scott's Condo, where it was just me and Scott and his
This
wife.
is just you and Scott, right? This
Yeah,
era is just you two. Okay.
yeah. So we would not only spend 12, almost 12-hour days together working, we'd be mad scientists talking.
Mm,
Hey, did you see what Sankey was doing? Did you see what Klaus did on Frank? And we would not just go from the this is not a dig, but from the fan point of view is, oh, that's cool. These are cool guys. We would go, what are they doing here? What's
mm,
the secret here? And that's how me and Scott approach learning. We didn't idolize people,
mm,
artists, because psychologically what sometimes happens unconsciously is, oh, I love this artist. This artist is great. Everybody thinks is great. And then there's this slight block of, well, I can't be better than him. So you
mm,
don't really try. So me and Scott would take an artist and go, oh, wow, look, we could learn this, this, and this, and then throw them away, literally, and
mm,
then go on to the next artist and go, oh, I can learn now this and this. So we dissected everything.
mm,
That's why Scott and I would be able to work well together, because we spent all this time where Scott would go, what are you doing here? And I go, well, just I'm doing this blah, blah, blah thing. And we came up with this silly thing, which we understood. Well, if you don't understand what it is, ink it as if you understand what it is. Make it something.
mm,
And that's very vague for people, but for the people that know and are really trying, that's one of the great tips, is make it become something. Because a lot of times people will just go, oh, this isn't that great, the pencils, and so I'm going to just ink it like that. No, Scott and I, we were going, if anything goes to print, it's our reputation, it's our name, so we're going to make something of it. And so we just figured stuff out. We just, that's all we spent all our time doing that. People later on can blame me, and I'll take it. That I never was interested in the business side of comics.
mm,
I was really just the artist guy. I joined Image because I wanted to make all the artistic
mhm,
decisions.
mm,
I now know how to tell a story. I know how to create characters. I understand my audience like you did. Let us loose.
mm.
Let us loose. And that to me was what Image was. But all this stuff before, that was training ground to do that, finishing ground to finalize all those ideas. And Image was boom. Let's let's lay it all out.
Well, like I said, Wilson, I was a fan, and I wasn't buying Punisher. I had bought the Mike Zeck miniseries. I got the launch issues with Jansen, and then I just fell off. He wasn't a character that I found very compelling. I like him in short bursts, but your art is why I started buying it. And then, ironically, of course, then Jim does a 10-year on Punisher. It kind of becomes like your guys' signature, learning pasture. Um, but yeah, I'm just flipping through these pages, and I mean, there's even the stylistic wisps of this hair right here on Punisher. I mean, every single page. I really spent days just combing over this body of work, because it's fun, because you're young, you're finding yourself, you're finding your style, but like you said, you understand storytelling to a T. My eye moves effortlessly through every page. What were some of you said Scott exposed you, sixth grade, Barry Windsor Smith, but what were some of your influences Is there any Neil Adams cursing through any of this?
Yeah, when Neil came on as the illustrator, right? He came
Hmm.
from Sunday strips, which were realistic rendering. So he showed how you could fine tune ink hatch line work into a quote unquote cool style that would fit
Hmm.
comics. And so I learned how to play with lines with him. A very important thing, real quickly, is that I was getting into hatching and stuff, and I was looking at his he did this black and white magazine story about vampires, Dracula, and
Mm.
he did all these black stallions, horses, and the rendering on them was almost like haphazard. And then I realized I went back to my art school days of charcoal, and no, it's just about the tone. It doesn't have to
Mm.
be clean, just as
Hmm.
long as your tone works. And so that's where one of the bigger things I learned from Neil. And he was a pretty person. If he was
Mm.
a casting director, he casted pretty people that
Yes, he
fit,
did.
you know. And so I learned that too. Then Jack Kirby, I learned action. I
Mm.
learned superheroes. I learned how to go big. I go small. I learned how to just go creative and just
Hmm.
do whatever and make it. Remember what we came up with this concept in Image Days of work it until it's cool.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know, and that's where I started to learn that, because that's what Jack would do. He would have the assignment from Stan to have the thing fiddle around with a microwavable thermonuclear keyboard clackety clack, and Jack would draw it, and you would go, yeah, that's a clackety clack, you
Yes,
know.
yes.
And so there were other artists, like McNolan, everybody, and Miller and stuff, but here's the real secret to, and I'm proud that I don't have a lot of direct copycats, because my style is 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 kind of in different places from
Very
different
unique.
unique. Well, when I went back to the Philippines, I went back with this collection of comics. I mean, even from the Jack Kirby Fantastic Four run, that 100 issue in
Mm.
space and stuff, and Gene Colan Dracula's, and the Neil Adams stuff. At that point in time, I was a sponge. If
Mm.
Jack Kirby Eternals came out that day and I bought it, all of a sudden for a week I couldn't control it. I'd be drawing like Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And Neil Adams would come out, and all of a sudden for the next week I'm drawing like Neil Adams, and I'm going, this is cool. It means I'm learning and absorbing, but I'm not me. And so the 4 years I was in the Philippines, there were no comic book stores, because comics
Mm.
hadn't yet gotten there. They
Okay.
came there a couple of years later. I stuffed all my comics in the closet and never looked at a comic book for 4 years. So
Whoa.
for 4 years, I banged my head against the wall, going, the first year was okay, because I go, oh yeah, Neil would do it like this, and
Mm.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But then by the fourth year, my memory was so cloudy, I could only rely on me and what really stuck in my head.
I see.
And that's how I merged all that stuff. And while I was in Hawaii, I didn't understand it at the time, but there was Kiku TV in Hawaii, Japanese TV,
Mm.
and I didn't understand. I was watching the first run of Kamen Rider V3
Mm.
and
Oh my gosh.
Kikaida. Yeah, all this great action stuff, which turned into Power Rangers and all
Hmm.
that other
Hmm.
stuff. And so I was learning Japanese design. I was learning how they could make something cool, but keep it simple, keep it pristine. So I learned direction. And that's a big concept we don't need to go into, but that's a big concept in design, where whenever you add an element in there, where should it lead your eye? It should
Mm.
lead your eye maybe to the head, which is like
Hmm.
Kamen Rider, a real interesting face. So have all the lines lead up into the head. Or he's got this big power, gun or sword. Have some of the lines lead to that. And that's how you can keep it simple stuff. So I took all of that in my 4 years of locking my comics away, and that's how I condensed this new style.
Well, like I said, it's stylized. It looks like Whilce Portacio, which I can't get anywhere else, but it tends to lean what we call comic book realism. Nowadays, Alex Ross literally draws from photographs. So, like you used to say, well, if you want realistic, take a photo. Well, he does, and what he does then with his ability, with especially his color palette and his strokes and his, I mean, he is the king of realism in comics. But I've always been, even Neil, it was as real as I think we had encountered as fans, but it still had a comic book element to it. But your work on Punisher, like I said, I loved it. It was very grounded. Uh, and then I got to tell you, I'm in the business. I'm doing New Mutants, and here comes Whilce Portacio on X Factor, and I don't think so. By that time, I'm very familiar with Jim's work. Like with what happened with you, I'm picking up everything he does, and I'm tracking him. I see that he is a commercial force. We're all getting contacted by the X-Men office, which I've told people was the premier office in in comic books. Uh, you knew, and they told you you're going to make the most in royalties. This is the highest profile. So they contact you for X Factor. Can you tell us how that comes about?
It just actually, if I remember right, I actually turned down X-Men the first time
Mm-hmm.
because I was starting to, like I said, in most of everything there, I was exploring storytelling and my art and trying to figure out who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I get offered X-Men, I'm going, yeah, I could do this.
Mm.
Remember, I started with aspirations to become a film director, but as I'm now doing this comic stuff, I'm learning the real importance of what we do or what we can
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that even the top five directors in Hollywood, and you know this better than I do, they spend most of the time trying to get money.
Yes, that's right.
They spend very little time creatively. In comics, if I want Michelle Pfeiffer in there and I can draw her,
Yep,
she's
yep,
there.
yep.
No waivers, no NDAs, no nothing. If I want to go to Mars, I don't have to get a bigger budget. If I can draw it, they're on Mars and stuff.
That's
So
it.
at this point in time, I'm going, wow, what's the limit? You know, and like you were saying, in exaggerating, in
Mm-hmm.
creating different characters, not just drawing real life, as it is. And then I get tossed these different scripts, and I got this script, um, which was horror, weird stuff, cults and stuff. But, and here's a key to my psychology as an artist: if you challenge me, I will do it. So this script um, uh, uh, had all these visual challenges.
Is this your graphic novel or
Yeah,
the vampires?
yeah, Legion of Night.
That's it.
Yeah, it had all these visual. So it was bringing me back to my film days.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh wow, if I was filming this, I would do it like this. And now
Mm-hmm.
we're doing CGI and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And I was into all that stuff. I was the first of us all into computers that had the desktop. I was doing ray tracing and shit. And so I was going, oh wow, do X-Men, get myself known all over the place, because you're right. You get on there, all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
you're somebody, because there's 400,000 copies sold every month. So
Mm-hmm.
you get known right away. Or do this weird thing. And this was the beginning of graphic novels.
Mm-hmm.
So they were pitching it to everybody. Hey, you guys are one of our top guys, so we want you to artistically go
Mm-hmm.
for it with no deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So me and Zach took this. He did Punisher, I did this, and we both, if I remember right, we both like took 4 months to just go to town. And you
Mm-hmm.
look at first issue of Punisher, you look at my first issue, it's like all this crazy stuff that we're experimenting with and stuff. And then they go, no deadline, right? You handed it in, and then all of a sudden, you understand this, you find out your book's on a schedule.
Yeah, that's right.
And now you don't get 4 months for the
Yeah.
next issue and stuff like that. But that's why I went to that first. And then after that, then it was just an easy thing. Hey, you got to still
No,
be
no.
interested in doing X-Men, so get on there.
The Legion of Night, the promos leading up to it were thrilling. They were super exciting. I love the book. Again, I grabbed anything you were doing. Wills, have they reprinted that? Have they collected that ever?
I don't think they recollected that, but I'm going to give you an emotional artist thing. Okay, it took 4 months to do that first issue
Uh-huh.
because you give artists time, they'll take every second of it and even a
Correct.
little more, right? So there, one of the visual things that was thrown at me with that plot was on, I think it was like 10 pages. There's a top open panel of a puddle, and every page you go through, a little speck gets bigger and bigger, and then you suddenly notice it's a somebody falling from a building, and then
Mm.
the splash double page of
Hmm.
this wrecked up person who fell. Well, I was going to paint all that
Mm.
to make it seem like it's different
Hmm.
element
Hmm.
compared to the illustrated drawings. But because they put me on a monthly schedule after that, I wasn't able to paint that. I actually was going to paint the whole thing because I was juiced up by what Lynn Varney was doing
Hmm.
on
Oh,
Daredevil, on
yes.
all that
Oh,
other
yeah.
stuff. And so I'm going to go to town on this. I'm going to show who I really am. And so the emotional side of me is that there's only seriously 50-60% of what I intended
Mm.
because I
Okay.
was allowed the time I was
Okay.
told I was going to have. So, as proud as I am of a lot of it and the storytelling and the design work, it's hard for me to look at the finished product.
Okay. Well, that's fair. We've all been there. Like I said, there are certain jobs I don't want to look at again. I don't know if you ever had, like I said, you really were fortunate or very deliberate in your choices that you never really had a job by. I think we've all, Eric, Todd, Jim, myself, we all had ink jobs by guys who we would never match ourselves with. Um, and those are the ones you go, oh, I don't want to revisit that. Or when somebody gives it to me, I'm like, oh, how do I sign this as fast as I can and move on? Because, so I get it. I get the emotions because we all have aspirations for every page, every panel, and when it doesn't, and when it falls short, we kind of disassociate. I understand it. So Bob Harris had to have contacted you then again and said, come on, Wills, your buddy Jim is doing X Men, or was that Jim going, "Hey, Wills, this would become how does X Factor come about?"
I forget the timeline, but I'm pretty sure within that, then Jim gets the call from Bob saying that, hey, can you guys do an issue of Uncanny that got knocked off? They didn't even tell us who it was, and we need you guys to do a full issue. And they, by that time, we had gotten Homage Studios, Scott Williams, myself, and Jim, an inker and two
Can we back
pencilers.
up? Can we back up? When does
Yeah.
Jim join?
In the middle of Punisher, Carl Potts calls me up and gives me Jim's number and says, "Hey, there's this other Asian dude in San Francisco. You should talk to him." And by that time, I think we had started seeing some of the stuff. And so both Scott and I go, "Hey, we've got this studio, this
Mm,
apartment,
mhm.
you should come down here." And so he actually then came down. And so we got an apartment, and 9 to 9 every day we worked in there. And so we started getting this reputation that if Bob or Carl or Ann got into trouble, we could fix it because
Okay.
it wasn't them having to call two other people. It was them just having to make one phone call to Homage Studios.
Oh,
And
so this is the famous issue that you guys all jammed on. Every one of you touched almost every page. I just remember it's got Gambit. It's on a train. There's stuff on a train. Do you know that the issue number? Um, it,
it's something
it,
like 168 or something like a 189. It,
Because did you lay it all out? Were you the master layout guy? How did that work? I vaguely remember, but the end result is spectacular.
well, okay, so Jim's on the line with Bob, and he's going, "Hey, can we do this, guys?" And then we all go, "Sure, it's extra money." And so he goes, "Yeah, we could do it, Bob." He gets off the phone, and we all look at each other. So he said, 14 days. Let's do it in 9. Again,
Sure.
it's an opportunity to show off.
Hmm.
And the more you can show, we've already gotten recognition as, okay, here's one number, and you could have two pencilers and an inker. It's not 3 phone calls, it's just
Okay.
one. And so by this time, we had learned each other. So I could render in my sleep, I can do anatomy in my sleep. Scott can render inking in his sleep. Jim can lay out, and people don't know this. Almost all of those backgrounds are Jim's, and
Okay.
almost all of them are Sharpie.
I love
So
it.
he started the Sharpie craze. He started experimenting with the Sharpie.
Can you tell me that? I just want to show everyone the issue number so they have a visual. What issue do you think it is? 260? It's not 268.
No, I think it's like 189 or 168.
Ooh. Okay, it's not going to be 189. Because it's past 200. Uh, okay, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Nope, not 189. Shoot. What's on the cover? What's on the cover? Do you know?
It's it's
Oh, is it this one?
yeah,
That's it.
that's it.
Okay, 267. You guys, if
267.
you so while you listen to this, go because we all heard about it. I'm working in the X office, so I hear about it. By that time, I'm talking to Jim pretty regularly. And as I've shared with people, Jim and I have one thing that we united to bring to Marvel, which is a fax machine. They didn't want to do it, but they heard it from Jim and they heard it from me, and they said, "You've got to get this fax because we can send stuff to you immediately." Remember? Wax paper. So Bob said, "Hey, between you and Jim, you guys have beaten us down. We've bought a fax machine." So I think I saw some of these pages, but let's go. So the backgrounds are by Sharpie with Jim. So fill in the blanks. That's the issue, everybody.
So Jim just quickly scribbles a layout. Then I take that page as he's scribbling the next layout, and I do any head, any
Hmm.
figure. Um, Now, again, Scott and I had already worked, so we'd already worked out a shorthand already. All of us worked out shorthand. So I didn't have to go there and fully detailed, clean. Scott could understand what I was trying to do because we were doing time here. And so then hand it over to Scott and he would do that. Then after that, and Jim's finished with layouts, give those pages to Jim, and then Jim will finish the backgrounds. And so we relied on our strengths
Oh
to
yeah.
become one whole. And we just jammed that issue out again to prove that, hey,
And
you guys
you're telling
climb
me
up.
that was 9 days? You're telling me that was 9 days?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, guys, this is so I this Will, this is turning me on in a way that you just do not even know because this takes me back, and I think through the miracle of what we have today, I am gonna grab this issue right now. I'm gonna get it so we can pull up a couple panels. Uh, and I just need to do my 2 click right here to buy it on Amazon. Buying now, okay, it's going to be downloaded because I want to show you. I want you to talk some of these people through this because again, we have the video component, which is so great, and oh my gosh, and this is before Jim's big Captain America Black Widow issue, the big kind of one of his best jobs on the X Men book, his best job in the industry ever. I mean, that was like a whoa, does this guy want to blow us all away or what? Um, but
One of the real importance of that issue, and it's the real importance, as you know, of a studio, is you take all the studio guys out into their own bat caves, and it'll take them a couple more years to
mm,
develop. Because when you're inside a studio, and you see another artist, like here, I'm in Homage Studios in this apartment, and Jim does this great splash page, and
Right.
Scott's going crazy over it. I'm going, yeah, okay. Well, what about this double page spread?
Right.
And then vice versa. So Jim learned from me, and I learned from Jim. So if Jim was dissecting Sienkiewicz, I would take all his, conclusions and play with that. If I was analyzing Neil Adams, he would take all my cues. So we, in those short years that we were together, we exponentially blew up.
Break this cover down. It's signed by all three of you. It says Whilce, Lee, and Williams. So did Jim lay it out? You finished because this
Yeah,
looks like your drawing. That
yeah.
these are your faces, and then obviously Scott Inc. So I don't think I ever noticed that you all three signed a cover. So do you remember how it came together?
Yeah, yeah. No, if you've ever seen Jim's quick layouts, you know, his form is still in there. His proportions are
Mhm.
almost exact.
Okay.
He doesn't just scribble randomly around. So I could just go in there and all of the rendering, all of the shading and everything, which again, because of my background, is just easy stuff for me to play with. The hard thing for me, especially at that time, is laying something out.
Mm.
You don't understand this as
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
getting that structure there. Look, so like that, that's a structure that of the big weird creature guy I could have come up with, but Jim did it in like a minute,
And this
and
is very much a Jim Lee face right here, but these are all Wills.
yeah,
So
and,
this is almost like pure Jim, but the rest of this is you and you're telling me the layout is I can see the layout is Jim.
yeah, and look at the backgrounds.
I
Those are
can
all
see.
Sharpie.
Yes. Oh, I'm telling you, I am so. This is turning everybody on, Wills. Everybody loves to go behind the curtain. They love, and I can see it. I can see this very much too. This is a very much an amalgamation of you and Jim on this page, obviously with Scott's finishes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
oh my gosh, this is so 9 days. Everybody, if you haven't, see, that's a Jim Lee Gambit kick if I ever saw
yeah,
one, but those
yeah,
are your finishes all over this.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. So you're saying after this, they're like, we can't let we got I mean, this is so funny because these are definitely Wills Gambit faces with some Jim Lee looking storms. I mean, this is so fun. I highly recommend anybody because Wills is like, we're not going to really just take 20 minutes and do this. No. But this is such a great issue, this jam issue. Um, so following that, you are now in the X-Men office. You because Jim's already done probably four comics, four X-Men issues. The one that he did with Dan Green, the three Mandarin Psylocke. So then you're jamming on this one, and then his next issue is his first official issue. So now they're bringing you on board, and Bob's like, "Can you do X Factor?"
Yeah, I'm not. I don't remember how the conversation went, but I do remember. If you follow my journey through the X books, because I did
Yeah.
just about every book, I think. If you follow my journey, I actually followed the original team. So anytime they wanted to move over the original team,
Mm.
Scott, Gene,
Hmm.
Hank, if they wanted to move the original team, I lobbied to go to that book.
I see.
And so here I am on, because now they're on X Factor. And so I get to X Factor, and I've got this beautiful story which highlights the way it used to be,
Hmm.
and this will resonate with you. So here I am on the West Coast, and here's uh, this great writer who's going to write plots for me for X Factor on the East Coast. Bob hands over numbers. I get a phone call from New York, and it's, "Hi, Wills. Welcome aboard. This is Louise Simonson. I'm going to be writing your issues. What do you want to draw?" And
That's
I'm a
great.
20 oh kid talking to God here,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I go, uh, I like ninjas. I like samurai. Oh,
Love
hey.
it. I love
And
it.
she goes, "Hey, there's this cyberpunk thing happening.
Mm.
Maybe we could turn samurais into cyberpunks. And I go, oh, that would be cool. I've been reading William Gibson. That'd be real cool, Wheezy. And then she goes, what else do you like, Wills? I go, and I say something stupid as a young guy. I like Japanese girls. And she goes, hey, Bobby doesn't have a girlfriend. And so Bobby
Boom.
all of a sudden has a girlfriend. Boom. And like I said before, an idea comes across, everybody's on board with it, and boom, it happens the next day. It doesn't go through this process. And so, but as a young artist on his first big, big book,
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, the impact of that, Louise Simonson, married to Walter Simonson,
Hmm.
two gods of the age, are going to work with me. Let me work with them. And Wheezy is asking me, what do I want to draw? And years later, I asked her about it, and she goes, well, the philosophy at the time was, I could, as a writer, write anything. And if I could find out what my artist likes to draw, then we're both on 100%. But
You know what you're really speaking to, and yes, you guys had a tremendous dynamic, and it jumped. And look, just like I've talked on the show before, as a kid, as a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, even going 14, watching Chris Claremont at conventions. So Guy is the top guy, but especially during that period right after Paul Smith leaves, and Ramita Jr. does his tenure, but fans are wanting a little more, something maybe a little more stylish, something a little more splashy. It's what made us love it. So that's why now Barry Windsor Smith is getting pulled on. You're getting Rick Leonardi in some spurts. But I would see Mark. I mean, I would see Chris ogle like Art Adams. Like, we're gonna do X Men work together, right? Right after you're done with New Mutants, you're gonna do. I mean, long shot, you're gonna do something with me, right? And then Mark Silvestri. Oh boy, you're gonna come over and do some X. They always wanted the very best artists telling their stories. So I can only imagine, suddenly Louise gets the call. You're going to work with this guy. Your quality was known throughout the land. That's your quality was known, Wills. So she's excited, and Bob Harris is empowering the artists because he read. Nobody read a room better than him for about 5 years solid. He stepped into a very competitive situation. I've laughed. Jim Salicrup has listened to the show and has said, "Rob, you nail the times. You tell those stories exactly as they." Because Jim would be like, "Rob, you want to come over here and draw Spider-Man with your buddies? You want to be with Todd and with Eric?" And I'm like, "Pretty sure I don't, because I'm not going to do a Spider-Man more impactful than Jim's. I mean, I'm sorry, than Todd's at that time, right? So you got to understand, Bob. I love that he let us rip, right?
yeah,
And so he's letting her know, make this guy happy as well, which is a big compliment to both of them, to Bob and to Louise, that she was so eager. Um, I don't. There was an apocalypse full figure in one of those. And I'm going to tell you, I'm in the business. I'm in the business now. I mean, we're looking at 1989, 1990, right? I'm in the comic store, and I mean, Wills, I remember, it like pushed me back like a foot. I was like, oh my God, I had never seen Apocalypse look like that. And yes, I had seen him drawn by Walt and so many other people, but so and later on in the X-Men, I got to tell you, I think this is one of the coolest designs. What you did with Sunfire, right there, and look at this musculature. Everybody, I mean, I just this stuff is crazy great. Stands the test of time. Is as good today as it was then. But I've made you the godfather of the fade. What I call the fade. Do you understand what I'm talking about when I call the fade? Do you know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
yeah.
Because I have said, okay, there it is right there on Colossus's back, right there. I've always said, if you see these lines that start out in a tight formation, horizontal, and then they break up and then they come back together. Where did you come up with that? Because Dale, suddenly I saw it in Dale, when I saw it in Dale Keown's Hulk, I'm like, oh shit, we're all looking at Whilce. Okay, where did you come up with that?
You might be a little disappointed
Okay,
because it was a demand from
okay,
editorial. Because if you look at my Punisher stuff, I go to black.
Yes.
because it's a noir,
Rob.
crime thing, right? And I'm studying noir, you know. And so when I go to X-Men, I can't remember how many issues, but over a short period of time, they let me know that, hey, it's mostly kids looking at this. So can you add a drop light? And
Okay.
so that's what it is. It's not me going to black. It's me going, here I am. I'm going, oh, I'm going to be going to black here. Okay, let me drop in another rim light or something. And that then became kind of the signature of the book.
You do it right here on the stomach. You do it on the chest. You start doing it under shoulders. I mean, Wills, your anatomy and and I'm not seeing this as much in that jam issue that we just talked about. The fade is not like you said. You're going more to a base of black, and you're pulling out of it. When I first showed your Punisher stuff and that one cover they have in black and white, you can really it's right there. Let me grab it and show everybody because it's I mean, like I said, Wills, you know that people in the business, we regard you as like a master illustrator, but like all of this, what there is no fade here. Like look at all the black forming the muscles, the musculature in the crotch, in the thighs, and then you're doing these pullouts, which would become the most popular thing. Every inker had to start doing. Danny, Mickey, they'd all, yeah, I'm doing the Z's, I'm doing the pullouts, I'm doing whatever. They'd all had, but again, all of this stuff goes back to you because you need to own the fact that you created this massive portion of the 90s stylings. And I love the fact, so Bob's telling you, open up a little. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Um,
thank you, Bob Harris, because that changed the comic industry.
no, like you said, Bob has a good eye,
Yeah.
but for you said it earlier too. The best thing he had was taking merging that eye with, okay, I believe that in this guy, let him loose. You know, I don't know if I remember it right, but I kind of remember at the tail end of our run, Jim and I's run on the
Hmm.
X-Men,
Hmm.
and we were starting to write. Bob would let us do whatever we wanted every
Yes.
other issue. You know, he would say, "Hey, Mikhail has to be. You got to find Peter's brother, Mikhail, in this issue. Next issue, whatever you guys want to do." He allowed us to go, and this is real important to me, Rob. People don't really understand what the comics format really allows. Everybody knows that we have 4 week deadlines every
Hmm.
month. So everybody knows, okay, yeah, in comics, you can't second guess yourself. You have to follow your instincts and do what you think needs to be done. But they don't understand the other side of that. Because we have 4 weeks every week, we could set something up in 1 month and the fans aren't getting it, they're not digging it, we could swerve a little.
Yes.
And if they're still not getting it, we could swerve a little more. And all of a sudden they're getting it. Yeah. Or add in another character,
Yes.
and put that. So even though we're scrunched for deadlines that we have to follow our instincts,
Right.
we also have the time and the interaction with the fans to make the story even better. And that's what people don't really understand about us. And that is why you have to, once a writer proves themselves, once the artist proves themselves, you got to let us go. You got
Yes.
to let us go.
And you were like myself, you especially with you and your group there with Homage, your studio. You guys were going to the store signings. You were seeing the reaction. The fans, they are so great. When we do something they like, they let us know, and they let us know when they don't like it. But for the most part, we were making some really good decisions. They because we had been raised on loving these books. I mean, the Burn Austin stuff will always be the North Star to me. Um, you know, Jim gets tremendous accolades for even trying to step into those shoes. Obviously, the best-selling X-Men artist of all time. I'm saying he gets tremendous accolades. But that Austin, try and buy a John Byrne Terry Austin page at auction. Try try and get those. They are the most holy grail pages. That and the Frank Miller stuff are currently just the accrual on those is crazy. So we're not alone in holding that work up so high. And Jim walked in there, you walked in there. I guess after turning it down, as you said about 40 minutes ago, you actually turned it down the first time. See, I was asked to follow Walt, and I was like, not a chance. I'm not following Walt Simonson. I'm not. And Bob even said to me, Rob, this is a good gig. It pays really well. Nope, not for me. And you know what happened is then Paul Smith does about a year, and then some other people, and then the book is literally like feeling the after effects of not having an artistic vision, and boom, you came on, and people. I want to show people a couple more because I've been able to find more. Look at that neck fade. You're going to see this, and I'm going to tell you. Oh my gosh, it's on the chest, it's on the stomach muscles, it's right here on the metal. This was signature, and I'm going to tell you, myself, Marat Michaels, we would just. I mean, here it is. It's on the handkerchief, people. The fade is on the handkerchief. It's on the clothes. This became a technique. And as I said, when I saw Dale Keown doing it on the Hulk, but there's a face here I want to share because this is where I was like, oh, hell yes. I'm implementing that right now. Is how you would use it right here. Oh my God. You have it under on the chin. You have it under this guy's nose. There's the fade. It's right here on the chin. It's on the neck. This was no, I mean, Whilce, you are just fantastic, phenomenal. Why do you think I've been so excited to talk to you? Just getting to, and now you telling me, Rob, they told me to open it up a little. Well, thank you, Bob, because like I said, everybody from the '90s. I mean, again, if you aren't familiar with all of Whilce's work, go grab all of it. Anybody listening, you're going to get schooled. And so from there you go and do X-Men, which I've got right here, and let's talk about Bishop. Let's go. Give us Bishop. You now look like Bishop. I feel like I'm talking to Bishop. Your hair game has always been strong. You had that sweet pompadour in the '90s, and now you got that sweet mane of Bishop hair. Tell us about creating Bishop.
Well, I'm so this the beginning of this is the merge of the X books, right? So Jim's doing gonna do X-Men #1, and I'm gonna continue Uncanny 281. And so I'm in the middle of drawing 281, that one. So it's 2 weeks in, right? You get 4 weeks. I'm 2 weeks in, and Bob calls me up and he goes, hey, Wills, Wolverine's all the craze right now. So everybody's kind of in agreement. And remember, I have enough, I don't know if you can call it power, to be able to follow the original team.
Mm-hmm.
Because just real quickly, I felt they were getting shortchanged. I grew up with those characters,
Mm-hmm.
so I knew how I wanted them
Mm-hmm.
empowered and stuff. So here I am doing 281, and 2 weeks in, Bob calls him and says, "Your team is kind of underpowered because Wolverine now is this big hot shit.
Mm-hmm.
So you need another X-Men." So he goes, create one. I never created anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Never showed him I could. I just created villains and other things like the Samurai and X Factor and stuff like that. And he goes, create a new X-Men. Well, so I'll call you in 2 weeks. So here I am trying to figure out what I want to do. And I do the easy writing route. You understand this. Do what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a military brat. I grew up with military things, starting to get to know with people who later on became Team 6 as Navy SEALs and stuff like that. And so, and then Brandon Choi is there, Jim's best friend, and
Okay.
just tried to get into the Navy SEALs. And so I put all this stuff into along with John Ford, John Wayne Westerns. And for people who haven't studied John Ford, it's very deep. It's not just this rowdy-towdy John Wayne. There's actually a lot of depth in there. And so with Carl Altstetter, who was our assistant at the time, who is now a toy designer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And drawing his own stuff right now, he was our assistant. So he was, people don't know this, for Jim and I, he was our tap into the fan psyche.
Okay.
If Carl thought
I
this
love
was
that you're giving Carl a shout out. I love Carl
Yeah.
so much. He worked for me at the studio for years. What a great guy. Love him. So continue.
So I came up with the character from what little I understood about Filipino heroes.
Hmm.
whether they're entertainment stars that, or, like Manny Pacquiao in boxing or in pool and stuff. There was this common thing. They all were great in their fields, but if you met them on the streets, they were just people.
Hmm.
They didn't tout their skills. For them, I mean, if you ever watch Efren Reyes, who's arguably now
Hmm.
the best
Hmm.
billiard player, there's this great duel with him and Fats Domino. Everybody
Mm.
knows Fats, and Fat gets up there, and he's great, and he's like sizing up the next shot. He's measuring it out, and then he takes his shot. But Efren walks up, boom, walks up, boom, walks up,
Hmm.
boom. It's like, it's I do this. This is what I do,
Hmm.
you know? And so I started putting that into this character that I was building. And then Carl comes in and he goes, because I'm trying to figure out here, and he goes, "Hey, Prince is real cool. You should give him Jerry curls." And I'm going, for 2 weeks, I'm going, Jerry curls, I don't know, but I can't figure out the hair. And so eventually I try out Jerry curls and I go, it fits, it works. And then he gives me the bishop name. And then he gives me some of the little insights here and there and stuff. And we put it all together. And then visually I go, oh, John Ford, blue and yellow. See
Hmm.
that? See that blue and yellow? That's
Yep.
that's that's my modern take of the cavalry outfit from the back in the day. That's why he has the puffy thigh things. That's why the
Mm.
big stripe,
I love it.
and that's why the scarf, there was no need for scarves,
Mm.
but that was a cowboy thing.
Hmm.
And I admired all that stuff. And so I put that in there because I could, because that's what I knew. And so I called, Bob calls me up in 2 weeks and I pitch it for 5 minutes and he goes, cool, put him in the next issue. And so after at that 2 weeks, I'm already now finished with 281 and we start jamming on how to bring him into the 282.
My buddy owns this double page spread. He's a big top executive at Apple, and he got this at auction, I think about a year and a half ago. And he had me over to the house to show it to me. He was so excited. He was so excited. Um, no, I remember Bishop. Great name, great visual. A lot of times, and you know this, the name and the visual don't match in comics, but when they work, boom. I mean, I knew the minute I laid eyes on him, I'm like, oh my gosh, this character. I mean, he's gonna blow up, and he did, and I love that that's part of your legacy. I love that you'd never created a character before. I didn't know that part of it.
Well,
Um,
let me tell you something real quick that's kind of on the negative side, but it was because so much stuff was happening. Okay, a lot of people don't remember the timeline that I do 281, Jim does X-Men, and then they only see like 3 or 4 issues of us after that.
mhm,
Because right after I believe 281 and Jim's numbers coming in for X-Men #1,
mhm.
we were all already talking.
Yep.
And so very soon after that, we gave our resignations.
Hmm.
And then they told Jim and I, okay, we won't do anything. You just got to give us 2 more issues.
Yeah.
So they took us off the writing.
Right.
So people don't remember that, okay, 281 and then 282, I'm allowed to put Bishop officially in, but it's the last page. It's one of those cliffhanger things. So he's fully in the next issue,
Hmm.
283. But then I'm taken off the writing.
Mm.
But remember how I had to pitch this. Bob calls me up from New York to California. 2 weeks later, I pitch it. Then he says, okay, green light, put him in the next issue. I start doing shit. And then resignation. And then, this is, we don't need
Yeah.
to go into, you probably got into a lot. There was a lot of turmoil
No, no, I
behind.
want to talk about it. I want to hear it, and people want to hear it from you. We're not going to skip by this. We're going to lock in on it. We're going to lock in on it. So wrap it up, and then we're going to go deeper.
So I'm now doing 2 last issues or 3 last issues of Bishop, but I'm just a hired gun. They're showing Jim and I
Yeah,
who's in control
I
here,
see.
right? But we don't care because we're going off the image.
Yes, that's right.
We're going off to be in the Top Gun class. And so my point there is, think about it. Carl and I muddled together and figure out this character.
Hmm.
I pitch it, I start drawing it in, and then I'm taking off the writing.
Of course.
And then we go to image. I never get a follow-up call saying, "Hey, Whilce, what have you been doing with this character? What did you have
Hmm.
in store for him? What do you
Right.
have planned for him?" So all the shit that went after
Yeah.
was not me.
Okay.
The
Well,
pirate group,
I'm glad
the
you're letting everybody
bald
know. I'm
head.
glad this is where to tell them.
Just real quickly, the M, they never asked me about the M.
Tell us about it.
Okay, I'm going, okay, Bishop is a mutant.
Mm.
And now he's going to hunt down mutants. But there's a reason. He's hunting down bad mutants because he wants mutant world and the human world
Hmm.
to exist. So, hey, this is our hand in here. This is our, friendship feather. We're going to tamp down on the bad guys so you don't have to worry about them.
Hmm.
And so he builds the pool and he becomes the commander of the pool. And to show the difference, because he's now making two classes of mutants, right? So when you get caught and put into the pool, you're branded with an M. You're
I
a
love it.
bad mutant. It's the scarlet letter, right? Okay.
I love it.
And so then the question begs, then why does Bishop and his teammates, why do they have the M? They're not bad guys, they're the good guys.
Hmm.
In fact, Bishop is in command of this. Well, Bishop is a young kid's kind. He's not a kid, but he's still young and he's
Hmm.
still forming his ideas. So he thinks this is the way to go, but he's not really sure.
Mm.
So as a measure, he puts it on. So every day he wakes up, looks in the mirror, he could see what he's doing. He
I
could
see.
remind himself the seriousness of what he's doing. So when he gets transported into the past, into our timeline, then the question should be, why doesn't he take it off?
Mm.
Because it's just a tattoo. Well, he doesn't take it off because after he in the storyline, the prison is messed up, the bad guys are let loose, and now it's havoc on the world and stuff. So his decision was kind of wrong. So in our day and age, he could look in the mirror every morning and say, "I fucked up. And I'm not
Mm.
going to take this off because I want to remind myself every day, I fucked up. I went against my kind, you know? And that's why it wasn't, as a kid, he got the tattoo because he was in a ghetto. Well, then, was there a ghetto, and all the mutants were there? No, there were lots of ghettos and stuff. So why did everybody in the pool have M's and stuff?
Mm.
It doesn't make sense. And again, the questions, why doesn't he take it off later on and stuff? You know, and that's what I loved about character, and I think that you do
Of course.
too.
Of course.
You can't just create somebody cool. You got to give them something. It's
Hmm.
got to be different. And even if it's wrong, or if people can look at it and go, "I don't know about that," if you make it come from a place where he was hurt, maybe, or
Hmm.
the world went wrong, and this is his reaction to it, people will not say, "Oh, that's good," but they'll understand. And if they understand, they connect to that character. And that's kind of the hard part about me for Bishop as he became popular. I knew what I was going to do with him.
Hmm.
I knew his potential. I'm grateful that he came out and went into the cinematic world. They
Hmm.
basically kind of kept a lot of what I
Hmm.
intended in there
Hmm.
for my first
And the
issue
animated world, and the animated world.
and
I
the
mean,
animated world.
and the toy world, and the statue world. I mean, Wilson, Bishop, even with, and I hear what you're saying here, and I feel for you, man. And if I was somebody from Marvel, and I heard this, and trust me, they listen to the show, I would call you up. I would write you that check. I would say, do that story and just mail it into us. We will buy that from you tomorrow. That is a book that everybody wants to have in their collection. So I hope that at some point because what you just said is powerful. And again, how do you not get the creator of Bishop to tie up the loose ends? I mean, that's just crazy. But I'm so glad you shared that. This is so great. This is why we talk. This is why we talk. So you mentioned that period. I've talked about it. I've visited with people, and here's the weird thing. Okay, I keep thinking the '90s is dying down. but I keep getting reminders that in every aspect of the culture, it's never been stronger. And like I just before I came down to hook up with you, the news was on, and there's some giant special multi-part series on Hulu tonight, or about the talk shows of the '90s, and it's interviewing, and I'm like, we have not left the '90s behind. And the people that I see and that you see when we go to the conventions, this is their special place. We worked and created work that is extremely meaningful to these people, and so I've tried to talk about it, but and I've shared honestly. But I love that you brought it up because you had your own point of view. What was it like from your perspective? What was the level of animosity? You said chaos. Talk to me about the beginning of Image Comics.
Actually, my best story, and it's short, is towards the middle part of Image,
Okay.
because there was that moment which was, I guess, a little bit controversial, where we all went back a little bit, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Okay, but that was again a continuation of the turmoil that was already started
Yeah.
back in the 90s, and internally with the editors and upper management. And the best I can give there is that I come back, and they put me on X Force because again, I dictate that
Yes.
I have to
Yes.
go back to the original team.
Hmm.
Where are the original team? Okay, they're on this book. Okay, and so I go back there, and this is something we can talk about too later. Right before I go into a coma, and the whole office blows up because that was the war between Bob and, right?
Right.
Casada, you know, right before I go into a diabetic coma for a week, Bob gets me approved a new X book,
Mm.
a new X book. And then when I wake up and get well enough to talk to Bob again, the office is gone
Mm.
and the book is off the books.
I've never heard the story.
Yeah. Well, nobody except Bob's office knew about this. They were, it seemed they were trying to really pull us back there,
Yes.
you know. But again, for me physically it didn't happen, but also I don't know if I wanted to be in that atmosphere. You know a lot more than I do. That I
Whilce,
was
I
on.
did not know you were in a coma, by the way. So I'm
Yeah.
horrified hearing about this. I'm very sorry you had to go through that. Uh, and then, like you said, to wake up and find out that the whole lay of the land had changed.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I mean, for a week, for like 2 weeks, I was talking to the assistant editor who was told he wouldn't get axed. Bob and everybody were already axed, but he would be able to stay, and he was going to be my editor on the book. And lo and behold, the third week he gets axed, and so now
yep.
nobody knows about this book. And but I say that because that's what was happening, and it's such a stark contrast from when we were there. It was, when we were there, it was almost a bunch of kids, including editorial.
Hmm.
Hey, wouldn't this be cool? And the reason it worked, and and then editors empowered us to get that done, not next week or 2 months later, but the next day. The reason that was really important, and we didn't really, really see it, though maybe you guys started to see it a little bit, is that nobody has power by themselves.
Hmm.
We get power because of millions of people
Hmm.
that give us the power. And we were just starting to realize there were millions of kids out there
Hmm.
that grew up. Some of the Asian kids grew up on Kamen Rider and Tokatsu and Godzilla and stuff. Other kids grew up on Transformers. And we started seeing Terminator. We started seeing CGI. We started going to cool worlds that we've always dreamed of going. Battlestar, Galactica, Star
Mm.
Trek, Star
Mm.
Wars. Those kids were looking to see that in the comics.
Mm.
And they didn't understand, though they were extremely happy when they saw it work, that you and I, because we're not tied to a budget, we could do whatever we
That's right.
thought in here.
That's
We
right.
could take all of their aspirations and go 10 times further, 20 times further, 100 times further, and give it to them every month. And that's what we tapped into.
Yeah.
And that's what it was back in the day. Now, and one thing I always tell everybody, okay, back in the day, when I was Uncanny, we were doing 400,000 copies every month, you know, and you could prove that because I don't know if you remember, there was that little strip,
Oh, sure, sure,
accounting
sure.
strip in there,
Yep,
and it
yep.
gave all the numbers and stuff. So everyone going, okay, cool, 400,000 copies. But I go to cash my Spider-Man checks in the bank, and I go up to the prettiest teller because I'm 21 years old,
Hmm.
and she laughs at me because you just do this kid
Yeah.
stuff, right? Now you take that Spider-Man check in there, and she's been told if he comes in, bring in the manager, introduce him because the
Yep.
manager wants
Yep.
San Diego Comic Con tickets.
I love it.
You
That's
know,
right. That's
so
right.
my point there is back then we were not this big nationwide thing. We were
No,
just this growing idea
that's
with
right.
kids, and we were making good numbers, better
Yes,
numbers than we are today. We could talk about that later
by
on.
far.
Much better numbers than we are today, but nobody knew about us. Now, a book, a character, an IP can be $1 billion property, and now they're telling us no nipples, no. You got to remember the curly Q. Where's the curly Q? They're second.
Wolverine doesn't smoke anymore, Wills. No cigars. I had mine digitally taken out.
It's like I just recently this one job because now all corporate wants to get in
Yeah.
on the thing, and
Yeah.
that whole vice president thing. Oh, I got to put my stamp on this.
Yes.
Make that a little more red. See, that's what I did. And they don't understand that when I got onto Uncanny and I'd already proven myself, it was, hey, nobody had to tell me, do whatever you want with the costumes. Go as far as you want with Iceman. Go as far as you want with
Hmm. Hmm.
Archangel. And so through the years, through the decades, there's John Byrne's version,
Hmm.
there's Walter's version, there's
Hmm.
my version, there's all these different versions. It's still the same character, but slightly different takes. So now when they do movies or you're doing commissions, it's which take do you want?
That's right.
But see, now because it's $1 billion property, the presidents and the vice presidents have to go, well, see that deep red, that cherry red, that's me.
Right. Right.
Who cares about the cherry red?
Exactly. I'm with you, Wills. Look,
You
you
know,
don't even get me. Look, Wills. I always say, we are the dreamers. We are the people. You've invoked Jack several times. We've talked Neil. These are the guys that blew us away. And I mean, good God, without Jack Kirby's imagination, that man's mind, none of this exists.
yep,
Okay. Then he makes it so that guys like that we can get in. And, you know, let me tell my viewers, my listeners, Bishop was ridiculously, profoundly popular back then. He was the reason your uncannies went from 4 to 600 to 700,000. Suddenly, you got to get the book. Bob was so right to say to you, we need some more firepower. We need some more cool. What he's basically telling you is the Wolverine character, the cool is over there. It's what I knew with New Mutants. I needed something cool. Boom Boom and Richter weren't cutting it. I had to bring in Cable. You brought in Bishop. And these characters had this genuine, very personal relationship connection with the fans and were as popular then as anything today. And it's like, wait, we brought this about. We did this. Whilce did that. Okay? Todd did that. Rob did that. And yet you're gonna tell me how it's done now? Come on, man. This doesn't exist without me. Like the Bishop is a nothing burger. It's a big giant blank space without Whilce Portacio introducing that, making that impact. And yes, it is nauseating when they try and tell us how to best apply ourselves. I can't even finish the sentence. I'm sorry. But Whilce, I'm gonna tell you, uh Wetworks was another profound, like, I remember being so excited to receive it, and when it hit, it was again now, oh, no, 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 no. Whilce isn't just going to show you with his ink craftsmanship. Your book didn't look like anybody else's book. It was colored on a level above everyone else's book. And I was like, what is going on? And I remember having a conversation with you and you just saying how you were art directing the whole thing and working hand in hand. Was it Joe Chido? Uh, I mean, the two of you guys side by side creating. I mean, if you would have said there's going to be this group and they're all gold, and I remember when the action figures came out and they looked like you crafted them yourself. They looked like they were pulled right out of your pages. I was like, this is such an amazing group. But again, you're the way you told stories and the way you went big. And we talked about this about an hour ago about like we just kind of went with it and made it cool and let's make it cooler. And I've always the thing that I remember going, you know what? I can do an entire issue of double page splashes. No one's telling me no. You were doing these giant, extreme, bigger, bolder than you had done on X-Men, which is, I think, which was the only way to go. Keep pushing the envelope, right? And was that fulfilling? I mean, I'm describing how I received it, but what about creating it and making it? Because the fans went crazy for Wetworks.
Well, let me quickly reiterate something. Oh, no, no. Let me tell you the story of how the idea was broached to me.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
Wetworks, but Image.
Okay.
So every year, everybody knew I took a month vacation in the Philippines.
Okay.
Okay. So Jim catches me before I leave. And, we all know Jim's always trying to work on big things and stuff. And so he calls me up and says, in Jim fashion, hey, Wells, there's this big thing that's going to happen. I can't tell you about it yet,
Hmm.
but when you get back from the Philippines, I'll tell you about it. And then you have to make a decision. I'm
Okay.
going, I'm going on vacation, Jim.
Good. Good. Good for you.
I go on vacation, I come back, and I'm not sure if I think a little bit after it was when the press release was put
Yeah.
out. So I get back and Jim calls me, and he briefs me, tells me what's going to happen. It's all the top guns. We're going to get together.
Yeah.
But he said something that was really important to me. He said that because we'd worked hand in hand in the in Homage Studios, the
Yeah.
little apartment, so we knew each other already at that point. And so he said, in Image, we are making all the decisions.
Yeah.
So you can do whatever character you want, tell the story however you want, however many issues, whatever format. We make the decisions. You don't have to go through me. You don't have to go through Todd. You don't have to everything. That's the only thing my mind clicked on. I never was a business guy or a fame guy or a money guy or whatever. I just wanted to do the work. And now I had all these years of honing my craft on making it big, the characters, making the story big, talking to my audience, syncing with my audience, and now I'm going to be given a chance to go
Hmm. Hmm.
crazy. And so that's the only real reason I joined Image,
Okay.
to
The
be
creative. Okay.
able to go crazy.
Okay.
So we can talk about this later, and in quote unquote the rough patches we've had with
Yeah.
me and stuff. But that is the real reason all that happened, because I was never really interested in any of that. I was just interested in this. And so my proof of this is Wetworks.
Yeah.
Is
I felt it.
taking
I felt it.
Yeah, it was taking my Navy brat information, because I'd be a little teenage preteen kid, on Midway Island. We were
Okay.
there for 4 years. It's a place that's only 2 miles by 1 mile,
Yeah.
and most of it is restricted forest. But you're a 12-year-old kid. They tell you not to go there. That's where you go there. To join my club, you had to find your own bayonet shovel.
Yeah.
That's how you
Yeah.
got into my club, where I would draw you a picture ID and stuff.
I love it.
So I'd be out in the woods playing war, all this stuff. I'd be absorbing all these stories, and I got into John Ford. I found out that it was deeper than what everybody was touting, that it's
Hmm.
just this macho, toxic, Western
Right.
macho guy thing. It was a lot deeper than that. We had to deal with, the environment. We had to deal with, people don't want to understand this, making peace with the indigenous species, the
Mm.
indigenous peoples,
Hmm.
the Indians,
Hmm.
the Mexicans. There are tons of John Wayne movies and John Ford stories where John Wayne's best friend is an Indian, is a Mexican. he's half breed, you know? And so and then Gunsmoke came out, and then Wagon Train. So I
Hmm.
started seeing these layers. And then in the military, meeting all these warriors, I mean, real warriors,
Right.
Team Six guys, because they were on Coronado in San Diego at the
Okay.
time,
Okay.
you know, and their sons were my classmates. And so I started seeing all this depth. And then I started realizing, oh wow, everybody loved because of aliens. Everybody
Yes.
loves all this visual warrior stuff, and that's easy. I know how to do that. I
Yeah.
understand that. I've been keeping up with all the tech and stuff. I can that in there, but let me add in another layer. And that's why we put the symbiotes in there. And the symbiotes took who you were, and they were like little mad scientists. It made you more. So the Grail character, he loved Bruce Lee and was all about chi. He became chi. Dozer was all about building muscle and being a bodybuilder. He became pure muscle and stuff. So I was
They were
playing.
larger than life. They're
Yeah,
everything that you're
exactly,
describing. I got
exactly.
all of that.
So I thought I go, and that's where it hit with me. That's what the book is about: taking regular human warriors and pushing them to the extreme. Because as we know, technology, you got to maintain that. You got to keep it clean. You got to resupply it. If you have no bullets, it's just a club, you know? And so it can tear down, it could break down. But you take a well-trained human being, put him to his edge, he could barely move, but he sees his buddy in danger. He digs deep and he gets it done. He helped. That's what that whole thing was really all about. And then it was just about taking my film stuff and go, okay, how can I visually put that together so that it's cool? Because if everybody thinks it's cool, they won't notice that I'm preaching to them, because that can come later because they're already in love with. That's how we fell in love with cowboys. You
That's
know, we
right.
had Hopalong Cassidy,
Hey,
horses whistling to them. That's the kids loved that, got into that, and then one kid grew up to be an action star in cowboy movies, and
mm,
then when it directed The Unforgiven. That's how you do it. You start
yeah.
at the kids and you start visually. You get them interested.
Well, so I'm happy to tell you that the audience, I think it was last year, I did a two-part on homages in film, and I broke down John Ford so much for our audience and how much Spielberg took from him. And how and again in films, when directors take from other directors, it's this badge of, oh my gosh, isn't that awesome? But in comics, it's a dirty practice. Oh, you should. In music, they take it to number one hits when they sample, right? But in our business, we have this self hate. I don't you know, but John Ford, the westerns, I invoked, and from the beginning, because I we're of an age. Again, you say Gunsmoke, Rifleman, Alias Smith and Jones, Butch Cassidy, Jeremiah Johnson. That's all my youth as well. The Cowboys were my thing. And I definitely saw, because you were doing something completely different. Your book was almost a military book with these cool guys in these golden skins. I mean, it was, again, the right book at the right place. You've like I said, well, it's the reason I wanted to have you on is to remind everybody, because you're a quiet warrior. You're not the loudmouth like the rest of us, and and your accomplishments are tremendous, and your influence is tremendous. Whether it's, I mean, the unbelievable redesign you gave Iron Man for Heroes Reborn. Okay, I mean, another like whoa, and I heard it. Everybody was saying, is this the best book in this relaunch? The answer is yes. It was the best book. I remember going, oh, I have to draw this version of the Hulk immediately. This Whilce Portacio version of the Hulk I'm putting in the Avengers right now. I mean, your impact is so subtle and yet so profound. And you went and had a school in the Philippines. And help me out here. We got Lenil Yu. We got Philip Tan. Who else did you influence and help? Because when I saw those guys, I saw your imprimatur on their work. I saw it.
Well, you can add to that Jay
Oh,
Anacleto, Ed Tadeo, Gilbert Monsanto. Um, it was a very interesting time because believe it or not, see, at that point in time, about 1995, Image was already well underway,
Yeah.
and there was starting to be some bumps, but it was still the biggest, hottest thing that was happening,
Hmm.
and we were all being put on this platform, this pedestal. I mean, because we are all shy nerds. We could tell stories about each other
Hmm.
when we were young and stuff, and now we're cool, right? But for anybody, that's a little overwhelming because one thing that I'm pretty sure you understand, I think we all understand, is that the audience, as much as we love them, and we do love them because they give us the power, they give us the energy to keep going, but they can only know us from what they can see of us, which is why Garib's Wizard was so important.
That's right.
We became real people. At the time, people thought we were just old guys, right? But when they saw that we were not that much older than them,
No.
then the dream was born. I could look at Rob. I could be like Rob too. I
Hmm.
could do that. Look at Whilce. I could be, Asians looked at me and go, oh, wow, we could do that too. You know, that I say all that because it could get overwhelming. And that's one of the real reasons I went to the Philippines back then. Um, I needed to get some space and breathe because I was being drawn into the business side of
Yeah.
things. And that's the thing that people don't understand. A lot of people, especially our enemies, will yak about and
Yeah.
rag about, quote unquote, our deadlines and stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't realize we were making deals that everybody is making today
Yes.
because we, especially you, started these conversations. Remember, when these conversations started, it was lawyer with lawyer.
Yeah.
And if you're $1,000 paid lawyer and another $1,000 paid lawyer, they're trying to get 100%. Well, that never works. So deals aren't made.
Yeah.
You and I are never talking. But I remember you especially started it with Todd. No, I want to talk to the principal.
That's right.
I don't want to talk to a suit. I want to talk to real people so that if there's energy, you guys have to make that happen.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. You can tell us if it's going to work. No, we're going to tell you. And so I needed some space. And then at that time, there were these producing jobs that were starting to happen
Okay.
where DC and Image would say, hey, I got this book. There's a lot of artists in the Philippines. Here's the budget. Can you do it? And so I went to the Philippines on a vacation to
Hmm.
find myself,
Yeah.
to give myself space. But then all these people, Jerry Alangilan especially, said, help us, help us. And so I started the studio with Brian Haberlin over there.
Okay.
Again, Brian handled all the business stuff.
Okay.
So if we needed anything yacked about, they would call up Brian's LA office. And then Brian would just tell me what needs to
Okay.
be done,
Okay.
and then I get it done. And so I go, okay, now I'm staying here. And then I get sucked into it. Because the best of the best, like Lenil Yu,
Yeah.
I didn't want him in my studio because my art director at the time, Jerry Alangilan, he goes, oh, there's this Lenil Yu guy. You got to look at his stuff. And I looked at his stuff, and it was horrible hatching, horrible shading.
Okay.
He was obviously trying to copy me and just didn't understand. So I ignored him. But Jerry kept badgering me. And
I
I go,
love it.
okay, after a couple months, okay, you can let him in, but he's your responsibility. He screws up once, he's out, and you might be out.
Okay.
So Lenil comes in, and I have this 1,000-meter house that I'm renting out
Okay.
on the Balete Street in the Philippines, which is a high-end street, but it's where the white lady walks.
Okay.
So there's all these ghosts and stuff. So it's this like premier cool place to be, haunted and everything. And one day I go downstairs, and all the boys are watching a movie at the mall. And so before I go, I'd always pass by the tables. There's 10 tables I built in there in the big studio part. And I see these drawings, and I go, whoa, this is pretty cool. So the next day I go, Jerry, what's this? I've never seen this before. And he goes, oh, that's Lenil.
Oh, I
What?
love it.
And then he does magic to me. He turns the page over and there's all the shitty drawing. You get what I'm talking about?
Yes.
On the other side were just layouts. So they were not yet ruined by the fact that he didn't understand shading and spot blacks.
I
And
see.
so all I had to do was, okay, Lenil, come over here. I don't ever want to see a hatch or a spot black from you ever again. I just want to see line outlines and stuff. 2 weeks later, I get a Wolverine.
Wow. Wills, that, so you said pull back on, he was trying to give everybody the distracting eye candy. And you said just do this structure and you'll be fine. Because, yeah, his Wolverine was, I remember those early issues and thinking, this guy is special. And I saw your influence on him. I knew that he was Whilce adjacent, and obviously he's become his own guy and incredible. And I've watched him. I remember in the early 2000s he was putting up online that he was doing portraits and drawing actors and faces, and I saw how he. But that, I mean, he did a great Bishop cover. There's an X-Men cover around issue 2000, around the year 2000. And I'm like, he is making Papa proud right here. This is badass. This guy. And so you had all of these talents because I'm gonna tell you, when I worked with them, like so I am super proud. I have my signed copy that I have a Whilce Portacio. I was able to draw an issue, write an issue for you and unlock you on Major X. I begged Marvel to give you to me, and oh my gosh, I mean, people, if you've never seen this too, get this. It is full of just the most incredible Whilce work. But Romulo Fajardo, who lives over in the Philippines, who I'd been working with since 2013, told me that you were an influence on him, that he learned from, they all call it your school. You are like this godfather over there to all of these incredible talents. And so
Well,
we in the comic community say, thank you, Whilce. Thank you.
well, well,
Amazing.
see, what happened and what I eventually did back there, Rob, we got to do it again. We got to do it
I
again.
would, Whilce, trust me, digging this up, that's all I want to do. You are phenomenal. I can speak as someone who wrote out a story and then got the visuals back and said, holy shit, like this is way heightened from what I was thinking in my head. You are so gifted, Whilce, so gifted.
Well, like, and this goes to a lot of what we're talking about. One of my pet theories on why the 90s characters and storylines everybody keeps still going back to, and there are still stuff that's being created right now, but I would argue less so. And one of the things was we didn't have cell phones and the internet,
That's right.
so you and I'm pretty sure you probably experienced this too, that you would come home from school around 3 o'clock. Mom had a snack for you. You watched 30 minutes or
That's
45
right.
minutes of cartoon, and that was it. They
Yep.
went back to the soap operas after that, and then mom would kick us all out of the house. So you had to learn how to deal with the bully over there,
That's right.
the bad guy that everybody's picking on over
Yep.
there, and learn how to talk to your crush across the street.
That's right.
And by the end of a year or so, if you were lucky, you learned all that. But you learned all that with people and in the real world.
Yeah.
You know, I remember also a time where, hey, look, I wonder what's on that mountain over there. Hey, let's get on our bikes and go and check it out.
Oh, for sure. All the time. All the
Okay,
time.
so we learned about life. Nowadays, I can imagine going, I wonder what's on that mountain, and they Google it. Oh shit, they say it sucks and there's nothing there. Okay, we're not going
Or
to
it's
go.
muddy. It's
Yeah,
muddy, and I don't want to put my bike up there. Yeah.
yeah. So my point is, we learned about people. So you and I, especially with your Deadpools and everything, you understood people and you made it a character. And I gotta give you kudos for if all the stories I heard were correct, that you found Ryan and you convinced him you are Deadpool.
Ah,
You couldn't do that if you didn't understand people and how people really work. And especially for an actor, they're looking for the hook. What is this character? Can I be this character?
Right.
And I imagine you had to explain that to him and you had to convince him and stuff. And that's what we were back then.
Yeah.
We understood people because we dealt with people every
Yes.
day.
Yes. It was
Now they
definitely
don't deal with
it was
people.
a different time. It was a magic time. I think there's a reason we both long for the late '60s, the early '70s, the time that we kind of, like you said, experienced, figured life out
Yeah.
in a different way. And look, Wills, you're as I said, you have. There's nothing. I remember they said, "Oh, Wilson's computer, he's computer coloring now." What? Like most of us, these keyboards, they scare the shit out of us. You are a fearless. I love how many times you've just said, "Rob, I just wanted to draw. I didn't want to part of the business." Look, that's what you let talent do. You let talent be talent. And Wilson, you have always been so incredibly, I think, generous with your knowledge. I'll be honest. I watched you ink in the early 2000s. I watched you ink a commission at a store signing that we were at, and I did not expect you to move the pen the way you did. I expected it to drag more, but it was you were very just bouncy with the way you were hand. And I went the next day and I inked differently. I inked differently watching you. And I told Murat, I said, Murat, this is how I used to ink. Okay, watch this. I watched Whilce yesterday. I mean, this is like 2006. Okay, in the Starbucks coffee shop, and I said, this is how Whilce did it. Do you see the difference? He goes, I see the difference. You're the magic man. Whilce, look, here's the deal. We are at 2 hours with this conversation. We are officially the longest episode, which is the best because people, it's so funny. I'm going to tell you something. Todd McFarlane, God bless you, Todd, calls me up in September and says, your episodes are too long. And I said, Todd, do you listen to podcasts? Because I listen to podcasts. I listen, and most every podcast I listen to, Whilce, and my wife can't believe this either, are 2 hours. They're all sports podcasts, talking NBA, talking NFL, talking film, all the movie podcasts I listen to, they're all 2 hours. And Todd's like, oh, okay, I guess I don't listen to podcasts. I'm like, yeah, so do and then I put it out there to the audience. Do you like them short or longer? And they're like, we want them longer. So this is a perfect length. But I have kept you for 2 hours. When we love Joe, she protects you. She basically said I had you for an hour. I squeezed 2 hours. Okay, so Wills, we are going to do a part two because we have a lot more to cover. But I cannot believe all of the information you shared today. So you dropped some gems, brother. Stuff that I'm not aware of. I've never heard. I think our audience is going to dig it. Just know how much you are respected and loved, Whilce, and celebrated. And what are you? I know you're doing a lot of shows. You're out on the road. Is there any upcoming work we need to look out for?
Right
A lot
now
of
I'm in
covers.
right yeah, apart from right now I'm in the middle of Stone 2.0, my
Fantastic.
image book,
Yes,
where
with Brian Haberlin.
right with Brian, and it's happening 20 years later, and his kid has grown up,
Oh,
and it's really a story about succession, you
okay.
know.
Stone.
Um,
People go by that first. I'm experiencing it with Youngblood right now. Wills. One of the things that people love, the comic book community is semi bored right now, and Youngblood is new to a big giant element of the audience, and they're discovering them. And retailers are like, I can't keep these. Uh, Go ask your retailer. Go on eBay. Find the original Stone miniseries that Whilce did. It is phenomenal looking. It is a phenomenal story. It is amazing. So Whilce is doing the sequel to that. When do you think that'll come out?
it should come out the end about the end of the year. I'm
Okay.
halfway, a little bit halfway, a little more than halfway through it.
Okay.
I'm trying to tie it well, I mean, it's a business where we can't just
We
do
can't wait.
it now. We've got
Hey,
to
well,
schedule it,
hey, and what you said earlier about how directors are always looking for money. Just today, I subscribe to way too many newsletters. But one of the big entertainment newsletters said everybody's always pitching, and it's an experienced guy, and he said you're pitching to the director's pitching to the producer, and the producer's out pitching to billionaires to get the money. And it's like It never stops. Everybody's pitching, and then later the studio will pitch to someone else. The producer will pitch to the billionaire to get the money, and then they'll have to pitch to the studio to to get the distribution. And like you said, in my old age, I've also let it go. I'm so thankful we do comics, and like you said, we can think of it, we can dream it, and we can visualize it and put it out.
Rob, I
Yeah,
want to say something
yes, yes.
that's really, really. I'll go quickly through that. I
No, you're
really
fine. You're
think is
fine.
important. Again, because I've always been a film buff guy. Do you remember in the 70s there was this old guy? He did these like actor and director workshops.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
you
I don't
remember
remember
that?
the name, but I know what you're talking about.
Right. And so for me, what was important was, and this was the 70s, was that he actually was a teacher at that acting academy. So he understood film.
Yeah.
So, and you will understand this, how many years, how many decades after Image, and you and I will still get the question. So, was it scary leaving Marvel?
Right.
I've
Right.
been answered that question 10,000 times,
I
you
know.
know,
Me too. Me
you
too.
know, we are hungry to answer new questions.
Yeah.
And what that acting school did was he knew this little tidbit of something that happened on The Godfather. And he asked Scorsese, okay, Coppola, okay, so what was that all about? And because Coppola was given time to actually answer a real question
Hmm.
that was about the art, the audience, myself included, got to see that, oh, it's not just a bunch of guys and girls getting together and having fun. This is serious stuff.
Yeah.
There's storytelling, there's
That's right.
lighting, there's
That's right.
character development, there's everything. And I think we don't have enough of that. I've been on too many podcasts and interviews where I get that question. Was it scary leaving Marvel? Was
Yeah.
Marvel pissed off? I've answered that 5 million times.
Well, we were not going to do that today, Wills. You have way too
Yeah.
much more to offer.
See, we need somebody like you that totally understands all sides of the business so you could ask those real questions to allow us to really talk and let up and coming artists and writers know this is serious, this is real, and the dividends can be fantastic, but you got to be serious, you got to study.
That's
This
right.
is a real thing. Too many people, you understand, we don't need to go, but you understand, too many people are coming in because this is cool.
Yeah. No, I get it.
They
I
don't
get
know
it.
what the
Well,
fuck.
Wills, the business is suffering. I'll be honest. A big wig that we both know, I won't name him, at one of the companies, good intentioned. He said, Rob, the comics are studying because we don't have the level of instruction from the editors. You began this 2 hours ago talking about Carl Potts. I wanted to stop and tell everybody how experienced and talented Carl was. And then you've got a guy who, Bob had people who, he was like us. He was young, he was successful, he took experiences, so people took shots at him. I've heard a lot of people take shots at Bob Harris. I will never allow it. The guy changed my life. He changed your life. He changed our lives, and he was a guy who put it all out there. But you know, when the guy says to me, "We don't have the instruction at the editorial level," it shows. It shows. Like you said, that sample that you had to turn 22 pages into 8. I mean, that is a problem to solve. And once solved, obviously everyone's like, "Whoa, Wills did this. Let's open the gates for this guy." So I mean, I'm so grateful that you took your time and were able to share your knowledge because there is some knowledge shared today. I love the all the secrets we got about Bishop. I love learning how you were approached to ink Arthur on Longshot and how fast you left it. Because I was like, wait, Whilce Portacio doesn't ink anymore. And it's like, of course, I'm like, oh, I get it now. If I could draw like this, I wouldn't ink anymore either. Whilce, you are something special. Thank you for your kind words. Thanks for spending time with us. We're going to do this again. This deserves a part two. This deserves another visit. Thanks for scheduling this with me. Thank you for taking the time out. Have a great night. And this will be up. I'll let you know it's going to be up very soon. So we are going to end the episode. I'm going to give you a fist bump, boom, right through the screen. Very much gratitude to you, Whilce. And I am going to officially stop this, and then we will wrap this up offline.
And I'll just end it by saying thank you, Rob. Thank you for your contributions. You were always seen as the kid, but I think you were the actual real grown up. You did all the things that we all dreamed about doing, and so I give it to you. I love you to death. You, like me, we're family
I
men.
love you, buddy.
We
Forever.
believe in community and family and love and all that good stuff.
That's it, buddy.
Next
Hey,
time
much
you're up
love to
here.
you. Thank you, Whilce. Thank you again. Appreciate you, brother. And here we go. And there you have it. What an amazing and informative chat. I just want to thank Whilce. It was obviously more than a chat. It was so informative. I mean, from his school that he started in the Philippines, all that talent, working backwards, the long shot stuff, the Punisher stuff, the X-Men stuff. Man, what a treat. I just want to thank Whilce once again. Uh, just incredible. He gave so much of his time, shared so much of his stories with us. Thank you so much for listening. Get on the horn, pass this episode around. There are so many great uh, items shared in this interview, and I am so excited that we got to share this time together when I'm not doing this crazy show that you guys all support. And I thank you so much wherever that you listen to this show, on Apple, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on YouTube, however you reach us. Thank you for listening and spreading the good word. I told you we've got some great interviews coming. That is just one of many that we have coming your way. When I'm not doing this, I'm on social media. Look for me over on X. I'm at Robert Liefeld, Robertliefeld. What a crazy name. Robertliefeld. I almost do it as a quiz if I know how to spell my own name. It's got a blue check. Tells you it's really me, not a fake account. That's me. I'm reading your replies, your comments, all of the different chat back and forth. Thank you so much for giving me your follow over on the platform formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, at Robert Liefeld, blue check. That's me. Instagram, Rob Liefeld, blue check, Robliefeld. We are having the best time. We have got so much new content. We've been going in one direction. We're going to add more crazy twists and turns to all the stuff that we've been giving you. Thank you for following over on Instagram. I love when you guys disagree. It's so funny. Just it helps me really. The interactions on Instagram really express the age gap, the age difference. Some of the characters that I grew up with used to be a lot more powerful than they are now. Some of the characters that maybe I haven't really visited in the last 20 years, let's say the Flash. You guys tell me, like, I mean, Flash is like cosmic level now. What the heck? He used to be just a guy who ran real fast, but I guess the Speed Force changed all of that. See, this is the kind of stuff that's going down on Instagram. Rob Liefeld, blue check, follow me. I'm reading your comments, your replies. My man Scotty, you're going to start seeing him in some of these clips. It's pretty fun. We did some pretty fun bits. When new work comes out, I'm going to preview it. I'm going to show it to you there. There's always something going on in my story. So, hey, Rob Liefeld, blue check, Instagram. Same with TikTok, Rob Liefeld. TikTok, we are just blowing up. Thank you for following us. Thank you for interacting with us. It's just so much fun to share this content with you guys and hear your replies and your enthusiasm. And I just thank all of you for all the support that you've been giving my work with the Youngblood book that's been coming out. That's going to be out in a couple weeks here. I think it's January 28th. You guys are talking about it on Instagram, on X, on TikTok. I am so thrilled. I am so happy to be able to engage with you. As I've said, I'm engaging with guys from Antarctica, from Ireland, from the buzziest place on earth, Greenland, to all over the 50 states and beyond. Love the fact that we can be so connected through social media. I have a Facebook group. It's a group, Rob Liefeld, Marvel, Extreme, and Beyond. We would love to have you. We have great art, great discussions, great camaraderie, lot of history of comics, and cool stuff that's being shared. We would love to have you join us. Rob Liefeld, Marvel, Extreme, and Beyond is my group. On Facebook, myself or Terry Sala, Sala, will click you all the way on through so you can be part of the fun. We hope to look and see you there in what is really a giant comic book living room, more than a clubhouse. We're just chilling. We're having a good time. No trolls allowed. No big arguments, insults. We don't do that. We keep it nice. We keep it upbeat. We keep it fun. Rob Liefeld, Marvel, Extreme, and Beyond. Look for you there. I got a whole bunch of new stuff coming to Whatnot, to my live streams. All new products. I can't tell you what they are. Some you've never heard of because I'm making them new stuff you've never seen. You're going to get them. Looks like late January, early February. But we have all manner of different variants and special editions of Youngblood that we'll be sharing up until then, when we start adding all the new stuff. On Whatnot, get the app, download it, follow Rob Liefeld. You'll be able to be alerted when I go live on my live streams, which we generally do 2 a week, a Wednesday show, a weekend show. And if you follow me on Whatnot, you'll be able to know we have a 5-star rating because we treat you and your products with the utmost respect. Been doing this 3.5 years. Like I said, we earned our ratings and our rave reviews, and we hope to see you over on Whatnot. Everybody, I just hope you're doing great. I hope that everything with you mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, I hope you're exactly where you need to be. And you know my motto, man, you got to put yourself first. If the grind is getting you down, step away, step back, take time for yourself, dive into a comic book, a movie, watch that great show you've been meaning to watch, go have lunch with a friend, breakfast with a friend, coffee with a friend, with loved ones, reach out, say hi to your kids, extend love, give love, receive love. That's what it's all about, man. It's all about people. And I am just so thrilled that we just are alive at this time in the world, as things are just changing crazy in the most crazy way. I never used to. I couldn't believe that technology would advance us in the ways that it has. Some crappy, some wonderful, all worth watching, even the train wrecks. But I just hope you're doing great. I hope you are exactly where you need to be. We will be rooting for you. 2 bumps, boom, boom. Of course, I'm still having my big cups. Someday, I'll bring one here. I'll undo. No, I'm not going to eat it in front of you. That's gross. But yeah, a Hershey big cup. A Reese's big cup a day. I just lost my endorsement. Just kidding. A Reese's big cup a day is my way of feel. It's the best 90 seconds of every day. Don't tell anybody in my family I said that. Guys, take care of yourself. I'll be right back here out there on that corner waiting for you to pick me up, because we're going to do this ride again. We will most certainly, we will definitely, we will, I'm going to say absolutely, and I'm going to add inevitably, we're going to talk again real soon.